Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryandam Vande Guru Parambara Prajnanam Shupradane Sthirajaranagaravyabivirvyapya Logan Bhuktva Bhogan Stavishtan Punaravidhishanotphasidan Kamajanyan Pitva Sarvan Visheshan Sumadi Madurabhung Maya Bhojayanno Maya Sankhya Turiyam Paramamrdamajam Brahmayattan Natosmi Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Viddushavahai Om Shanti 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 Stapagaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namah Om Vedanta, if we use this term Vedanta or Vedanta, Vedanta is something that is not a religion, or it is not even a philosophy. What Vedanta teaches us is basically the means of knowledge. When you say means of knowledge, it's all about one subject. The entire scriptures or this set of scriptures talk only one aspect. That's all about self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is the only source of liberation. Because nothing else can help us to make freedom in life. As per Srimad Bhagavad Gita, if you see the 9th chapter, Rajavidya, Rajaguhya Yogam, there Bhagavan Krishna says, Jnanam Vijnana Sahidam Yat Jnatva Mokshase Ashubhat. When you are really aware of your true self, hey Arjuna, you will be released from all the inauspicious. When I say inauspicious, all the material world problems that haunts us. So you need to get this knowledge. What is this knowledge about yourself? And how that knowledge will help? One has to derive wisdom out of that knowledge. Because knowledge alone cannot help one. Knowledge is all about understanding or familiarizing with that. But ultimately, Vijnanam should come. The wisdom should come out of that knowledge. Jnana Vijnana Yoga. If you see Gita's chapter again. Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Knowledge alone cannot create liberation. That wisdom coming out of the knowledge can only create the liberation. Right? So, you will be released from all the inauspicious Arjuna. Jnanam Vijnana Sahidam Yat Jnatva Mokshase Ashubhat. And again, Bhagavan says in the next verse, Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. Hey Arjuna, understand that this is the greatest purifier. When we say purifier, it's Pavitram. Pavitram Idam Uttamam. And not only that, Pratyaksha Avagamam. Pratyaksha Avagamam meaning directly known and appreciated. And this knowledge about the self is something which theoretically you can understand that you are not a mere body, mind, intellect sense. Then what are you, or who truly are you? That you need to directly know and experience and then appreciate. And this knowledge is called as Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Guhyam meaning it's secret. What is this secrecy about? It is nothing like, it is the password of your email or something like that. This knowledge is within all of us. And that knowledge can be known or understood if you provide or if you put efforts. That is why it's called a secret. Correct? Because one has to really turn inward and be with that. And this is available. This knowledge is already available. But the problem is that most of the people have very little value for it. And we all are very busy with, finding out things from the world, seeking happiness, seeking security, seeking freedom through all the worldly objects, or be it the pursuit of money. 1 second. Be it the pursuit of money, be it the pursuit of power, or the goods that you need. See, ultimately we are in the trap of never-ending desires and the distractions which are caused out of the desires. This is the, reality. So that is where people find less or little value, because they are already trapped in the other affairs, such as, finding out happiness from the worldly things, finding security from the worldly things. Most of us live in apartments or villas, right, where, or even in individual homes also, you pay to the security agencies. Why are we paying to the security agency? What are we trying to do? I hope you all are awake. I hope you all are listening. For securing ourselves, right? Nobody is turning video today. What happened? Everybody is in the samadhi sthiti or what? I hope you all can hear me. Someone wants to join. Yeah, you can turn on the video. I will not ask any questions. Don't worry. So, the problem is basically the ignorance. What is the ignorance here? Ignorance is all about finding out perfection from the worldly things. This is the only problem. Everybody is trying to find perfection from the worldly things. And Vedantam says that this is the ignorance. This is the only issue. The ignorance is the issue. And what is the ignorance? Ignorance is all about the state of self-forgetfulness. Because we ourselves are forgetting the true nature. Instead of identifying and being with that true nature, we are identifying ourselves with the body, mind, intellect, sense, the transactions that we do, the possessions that we have, the powers that we have, the associations that we have in this world in the form of father, mother, siblings, grandfather, grandmother, etc. Right? Or you work with this company, you are the owner of the company, you possess this, you possess that. Or I am, masters from this college, that college, the wealth that I have, or the lineage that we carry, etc. These all are good. These all are really good for the sake of transactions. Ultimately, the ignorance is we ourselves are forgetting about the true nature. Instead of that, we are stereotyped, or we are identifying ourselves with the body, with the mind, with the power, with the position, with the intellect, with the skills. So what happens as a result? The actions, the results, the doership, enjoyership, sins, merits, demerits. Ultimately, what happens is the notion of ego starts playing. When I say ego, the small I. And Vedantam says that the root cause of our problems, misery, is having the notion of ego, the small I, and that is a false notion. This is the only root cause. When I say the small I, the identification that we have with the body, mind, intellect, senses, the ignorance that is created out of the egocentric concepts, that is where the ego thrives. So what one has to do is to uproot this ignorance. How one can uproot the ignorance is only through the knowledge. And where this knowledge should happen, where is the ignorance? Where is the ignorance? The real I, the real self is not ignorant. Real self is always free. But where is the ignorance?
Ignorance is in the mind.
Ignorance is in the mind. So the ignorance in the mind can only be removed through the knowledge of the self. So when the ignorance is removed, that self becomes manifest. In fact, we have seen one of the verses in the Atma Bodham, how the cloud prevents the sun, or how the cloud covers the sun. Similarly, the ego, the deluded ego, the small I, is playing the mischief here, right? And when that ego, or when that ego is known as not the truth, the ignorance will go away. And that mind will enter the realm of the true I, so called as the pure consciousness, the real I. In Gita, Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 16th verse, in the Karma Sannyasa Yogam, Jnanena tu tad ajnanam yesham nashidam atmana tesham adityavat jnanam prakashayati tatparam. So here it says, the one who has destroyed that ignorance through that knowledge will come out of the duality, will come out of all dvandvam, duality. What are those dualities? Pleasure, pain, right? Punyam, papam. And including the notions of ragam, dvesham, kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam, punyam, papam, everything. So only jnanam can destroy the ignorance.
Which verse did you say?
Fifth chapter, 16th verse, Karma Sannyasa Yogam. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashidatmanaha tesham adityavat jnanam prakashayati tatparam. So one who has destroyed the ignorance through knowledge will come out of these delusions, will come out of the duality, will come out of the kalangam, or the impurities, so called as raga, dvesha, kartrutva, bhoktrutvam, dvandvam. What happens? That person will gain the eternal essence. Meaning what? That person has drifted from the small I to the big I, from ego to the true self. Please understand that these are the two ends. One is the small I, the other one is the big I. Right? This small I is at the one side, and the big I, the true self, the true I, is at the other side. Every human being will start the enquiry from the small I, this so called as the ego. It is very easy. We don't need to know rocket science and all those things. What is this ego? What is this small I? These all are the identifications that we try to create. I am skillful, I am knowledgeable, I am rich, due to me it is happening, I am the only one who can do this. Without me, how this is possible? Correct? And if you look at the small I, the ego, what are we trying to do? We are trying to relate ourselves with the different objects. For example, when I say I am rich, I am relating myself with that wealth. So I am creating a stereotype. And if you start looking at that, ultimately you will understand that ego is not the one which is able to do anything. Let's go back to the daily life where we have the three avasthas: Jagrat, Swapnam, Sushupti. In the Jagrat avastha, in the awakened state, we are able to see, we are able to transact, we are able to interact. Our manas, buddhi, sharira, indriyam, everything is active. We are able to, use the mind, brain, everything. And when we go to the state of dream, Swapna avastha, the identification with body is not there. Right? Even you have undergone a surgery, the body consciousness is not there when you are dreaming, or maybe in your dream you are seeing that, yeah, I overcame all those problems and I am fully okay now. Right? The problems of the body is not really affecting. The problems with the relationships are not affecting in the dream. Right? Sometimes you see your enemy as a friend. Isn't it so? So there is no body consciousness, there is no even the stains coming from the transaction sometimes. That is why you see a different projection that is happening in your mind and appearing it as a dream. Correct? And in the deep sleep, so called as the Sushupti, body, mind, intellect, sense, everything is absent. All these upadhis are absent there. What is really there? Your own existence is there. And without any of these faculties, you are in the state of perfection there. That is why you are comfortable. You are having Paramanandam in the deep sleep. There is no problem, right? And there is no one even saying that I am bored with the sleep daily, right? Let me not sleep for the next 1 month because daily I am sleeping, right? Everyone looks for that. What is happening there? In the absence of everything, one is getting the perfection. But in Ajnana, because we are not knowing, in the deep sleep, what is happening is basically there is no objects to be experienced. You are with the subject. So ultimately, we can see that the small I is irrelevant. It is something like, when you start peeling the onion, you will not see anything at the end. But you may ask a counter question to me. You are saying we should not have ego. Yeah, not like that. In the transactional plane, you have to have ego. In the transactional plane, you may have to have that. So what happens is, this notion of the mamakaratvam or the I notion, you cannot have it in your inner plane. This is what we are saying. This ego gives the sense of I or mine or the mamakaratvam, and you have to use this in your plane of interactions, no doubt, because interaction is all about, vyavaharam is all about ahangaram. And ego is the mouthpiece of the personality of anybody. Correct? This
one counter question. During deep sleep, after deep sleep, we feel good. So why can't I simply say that, yeah, my brain rested, so it was tired, now it has rested, so now that's why I'm good.
Yeah, because that is what is happening. Every objects are plunging into the subject. Correct. Every aspects of, or the, what is the right word? Every receptors, all receptors that you use, everything is plunging into the subject. So that is why you get refreshed. Scientifically also it's correct, because all those receptors are dormant. So that is where a reset happens every night. You are not asking a counter question. That is scientifically right also. Maybe in another way you have to look at, like, everything is plunging into the subject. That is why there is no objects to be experienced, because everything is in the dormant, and nothing has to be experienced by the subject. That is how the sleep is designed. Correct. So that is where you get refreshed, you get freshness. Correct. Everything was void or blank. Obviously right, you are right, scientifically it's correct. But what is happening is, in the Dirgha Sushupti, every object is plunging into this reality, into the subject. And where is the sense of individuality in the deep sleep? So in the deep sleep, individuality is not there. You are with the subject. You might have seen in the olden times, people usually don't cross a person who is sleeping. In olden times, we never used to have these big cots and mattresses and stuff like that. We usually sleep on the ground. Have you seen that? Maybe at least I have experienced those things.
Yeah.
What is the rationale behind it? Maybe again, this is a debatable topic, but why? What is rationale behind a person not crossing somebody who is sleeping? Any thoughts on this? Have you seen that? Maybe if you have not seen,
Yes,
then
yes.
you will not be able to appreciate. Why?
Definitely seen that, but don't know why. Why?
Because that person has no sense of individuality, right? That person has no sense of individuality, and that state, when the person is sleeping, in Malayalam we used to say Brahmatil Leyichirikkunna avastha. So that person has merged into that reality. That person has plunged all those receptors into that reality. So there is only pure truth. And that person is vasanarhidam, kalangarahidam. There is no stains in that person, because that person is not thinking anything bad, anything good. Correct. So that person is is resting in the true reality. So as a respect, in the olden times, people don't cross the person. Right. So the sense of individuality is needed in the background when we do the transactions, because the sense of individuality is the master player, and we use the mental plane there. So what one has to do, because when we say drifting from the small I to the capital I, practically it is not possible. Maybe theoretically we'll understand, appreciate, yeah, whatever you are saying, we are discussing, this is right. But what one has to do practically to achieve that? One has to, drop the ego to the minimum level. When I say drop the ego at minimum level, not at the plane of interaction. If you are a manager, you have to manage things. If you are a businessman, you have to drive the business. If you are a lawyer, you have to do the job of a lawyer, right? Only thing you have to protect is going in the boundary or in the framework of dharma, righteousness, right? That is what. But if someone has to, act on certain people's behavior, if a manager has to, or if a supervisor has to act on the subordinate's behavior, he or she has to do that. A bus conductor who is supposed to sell the tickets, he should do that. He should not, be lenient and think that, yeah, anyway, I'm not going to lose anything. No, not like that. Everybody is supposed to do their work, right? When we say without ego, you cannot do the work, because a bus conductor is a bus conductor. He is the master there, who is the one who is going to come to the people and ask whether you have taken tickets or not. Sometimes he may also doubt us. Did you take the ticket? Show me from where you get into the bus. Correct. So a person has to have ego when while interacting at the transactional plane. But what we are discussing is all about at your inner plane, how the karma vasanas or the kalangams are not coming into picture. How you are not absorbing the stains which are coming from the karmam. When we do a karma, when we do an action, when we do any interaction in this world, ragam, dvesham, kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam. Meaning what? Attachment, aversion, enjoyership, doership, all those things will come. Without that you cannot do. But the jnani will never absorb all those karma vasanas or kalangams into the inner plane. So that is where practically how we can do is drop the ego to the minimum when you are in the world. Correct? When you are acting in the world, and when you do the transactions, when you are done with the transactions, you drop the ego to the minimum. That is where the Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter says you do everything as karma yogam rather than taking the ownership. This is the practical way to drop the ego to minimum. In fact, I was reading today's Times. I saw a beautiful article. In Japanese, the art of not doing anything. You know that word? I think it's Bokito. Boketto. Anybody is familiar with this term? So this is all about art of not doing anything. Art of being in a vacant or a void scenario. Or the art of gazing into void, not thinking. Observe without notions. Without trying to be with that, just be with that. Very, very beautiful, because in the modern world it is very much needed. So what I am trying to say is, every day we should have some time to spontaneously forget ourselves as an individual, as a person who is possessing certain coordinates in life. That is where the meditation or the different techniques help anybody to forget about our personalities. And again, personality meaning these all are assumed, right? As an individual.
Is the karana sharira.
Hmm?
Personality is the karana sharira, is it?
Personality is the stula, sukshma, karana, sharira, everything included. Because as a person, you are Arindam, right? Arindam has got structure, a body, a look, certain attributes which are soft, which are hard, the way that you deal. So that comes to the Sukshma Shariram and Karana Shariram ultimately, because certain traits that you possess, right?
Traits as in like some tendencies.
Yeah, all tendencies. So this is all about the summation of Stula, Sukshma, Karana Shariram. But you are beyond Stula, Sukshma, Karana Shariram. You are the Atma. You are the true I, true self.
In Buddhism, they say non-self. I don't know if you know what.
They call it as the Shunyavada, where Shunyam is basically, in this case, when you say self, you are identifying yourself with certain things. So their philosophy is basically non-identification with anything. So ultimately, it's Shunyavada is same as the Hinduism, because Buddhism is an offshoot of Hinduism.
Yeah. So when we say self, like capital S self, then we mean Atma.
Yes.
Which is same as Brahman.
Yes.
But when they say non-self, that self is with small s, meaning that I am not this, I am not that, like that kind of.
Yeah. Even Atma is also like Atma doesn't have any, ownership, Raga, Dosha, Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva. Nothing is there, right? So Atma is pure, Atma is Anandam, Atma is Avinashi, everything, right? So that self has no, specific attributes that you can claim. But that self has everything. That self is the vast potential of everything. You can see the Laukika and Alaukika guna in that self. But that self will not stand as a kind of attribute as such. Correct?
The self itself has no attribute.
Self itself is not having any attribute. But with that self only everything is possible. Right? Your thinking, your ideas, your thoughts, your activities, capable to think differently, capable to act, even the blood pumping, right? Even the different prana, pancha prana acting in you, everything is due to that self only. There is a structure which is there. There is a governing principle which is there, individually as well as for the universe. And what we are trying to do is basically we are misidentifying ourselves with the objects, the body, mind, intellect, sense, etc. Right? These things doesn't have any meaning without the self. Without the para prakriti, there is no existence for apara prakriti. Correct. So this ego associates with wide variety of objects, and again it is not a problem, because when you do a transaction, when you are in this world, it is quite obvious that the mind will associate with different things. We are associating with different things, correct? And it is quite common that a wide variety of topics we are dealing with, and the ego functions to associate with each and everything. For example, if you start comparing, you go to the hospital, the nurse will ask, what is your name? Yeah, my name is that. What is your height? You please go and check. My height is so and so. Right? Doctor may ask, what are you doing now? Yeah, I am thinking about this. If that is going to happen, how will I deal it? Or maybe you are shouting at somebody, what is happening here? Yeah, I am a bit angry. And again, you may ask, why are you shouting? Yeah, because I am losing my time. It's my time. Right. Or you may come back and say, yeah, do you feel that today's discussion is fruitful? Yeah, I feel it was fruitful for me. Or you may say that, yeah, being a lawyer, you have to pay for my hours. So we are associating ourselves with the wide variety of the objects. But you are the subject. There is no limit for your association. You can associate with a number of things, any objects, any ideas, in which the ego can connect itself. You don't need to train your ego to say that, right? This is my book, this is my wealth, etc. Ego will play when you associate.
The whole assumption, I guess, is that consciousness is a fundamental thing, or is the only thing. Let's say.
It is not the assumption. It is not the assumption. It is the truth. Consciousness is the only thing.
And it manifests in physical objects.
Yes.
To basically, make jivatmas.
Yeah, obviously, because that is why we all are conscious about ourselves. We are talking. We are interacting. Correct.
Then one counter argument could be, why can't it be that atoms and molecules and whatever else, they align in some unique way that it produces consciousness? Meaning consciousness is not a fundamental thing, but it's actually a result of fundamental things, which is material matter and energy.
So your question is why atoms are not having consciousness?
My basically counter argument could be that consciousness is a product of the atoms and molecules and whatever else combining in some unique fashion to produce consciousness, and not that consciousness itself is a fundamental parameter which manifests in atoms and molecules to produce Jivatma.
No, consciousness is not a product or a part or a property of any matter. Even the atom is also a matter. Correct? It cannot be, because there is no relationship between these two. When I say matter consciousness has no dependency with the matter principle, whereas the matter principle has got dependency on the consciousness principle. Let us take the example of human body. Right? If the consciousness is not there, what is the meaning of that? Whereas, do you think that that consciousness is also dying? No. Or when you take the example of a birth, what came into picture first? Is the body came into picture, your life came into picture, or the body came into picture first?
Body.
Body.
I mean, embryo is produced first, right?
No, no, no.
From when it is
Before
defined-
even getting a cell, what came into picture? There needs to be a truth or a rule that is coming first. Then only the cell can, or the cell formation can happen. If that is the case, then a medical field would have created a number of babies without any consciousness. No, it is easy. No, they could have done this in the labs.
True. Yeah. That's probably the one argument you can say, that consciousness is the fundamental parameter and not the other way around. That
So I will not go with science and all, because I depend on the Shastram, I depend on Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chatusloki Bhagavatam, which Bhagavan gives the advice to Brahmava, the Anvaya Vitirega Abhyam Yatsyat Sarvatra Sarvada. So that is where Brahma was fully confused in terms of how to create, or how to do the creation, right? If I do the creation, will I get bonded or bounded, right? So that is where Adinarayana gives the profound knowledge to Brahma in the form of Chatusloki Bhagavatam, right? And it says Jnanam Paramaguhyam me yad vijnana samanyatam sa rahasyam tadangajja grahana gididam maya yavanaham yada bhavo yadrupa gunakarmaka tadeva tattva vijnanam astude madanugrahad. So it goes like that. Aham eva samevagre nanyat yad sad asat param paschadaham yededaschayo vashishyeda sosmiham hridertham yad pradiyeda na pradiyeda ja atmani tadvidyad atmano mayam yada bhaso yada tamaha. So there is a profound term called as Anvaya Vidiregabhyam Yatsyat Sarvatra Sarvada. Aham eva samevagre, meaning I came first. When I say I, it is not Hari, it is the Brahman. That consciousness. Aham eva samevagre nanyad yad sadasat param. And I do have the attribute of, being, I am everywhere. And everything that you see is a manifestation in me. And you see a manifestation in that, and that manifestation will also go, but I still exist and I don't have any connection with that. Whereas if any manifestation has to be seen, I need to be there. This universal consciousness has to be there. For any names and forms to exist, any nama rupam to exist, there should be asti bhadi priya. I am that consciousness. Hey, understand that as, the universal truth, and that truth is anadi, it is always there. In that truth only all the manifestations come, including the molecules, atoms, the cells or humans or plants, everything. And even the galaxies or the planets to behave as it is, or the way that it has to be supposed to work, there is a universal principle. And that universal principle is called as Brahman. And when that principle is looked from an individual point of view, that truth is there within us. And that truth, we call it as a Jiva Atma, because this is inside this manifested body. And that truth is surrounded by the different traits of that individual, be it the vasanas, be it the qualities of manasa, buddhi, citta, ahangaram, etc. That is why it's called as Jivatma. But our Vedantam says that Jivatma and Paramatma are same because you are that truth. But you have identified and associated with the clutters. The moment you understand that you are that truth, you have reached the state of Tattvamasi, that thou art. So we do not know our true potential. We are basically, thinking at body, mind level, etc. And one has to, understand the deeper level of existence than this ego and personality and mind and body and all those things. Now, what is happening is basically the in programming language we call a term as typecasting. Maybe those who are programmers will understand that. What is typecasting? Basically, you are converting something with other. What is happening is basically you are now identifying the big I as a small I. Small I meaning the ego. Right? And you are thinking that I am limited, I am, in the bondage, etc. We are now converting or typecasting that bigger I into a smaller I. Or maybe we can say we are not really knowing the bigger I. We are now stuck at the small I. When we say, we all call this kind of terms called as, self confidence, self management, self knowledge, etc. Right? What are we trying to do there? We are still at the body, mind, intellect sense. Nobody is really looking at beyond that. It's behind the external world that we perceive there is a core within all of us. But unfortunately, we all perceive the Nama Rupam. We give importance to, all the names, forms, objects, our identifications that we could make in the objective world. No one thinks about the consciousness or the bodham behind it. So we usually get satisfied with our, superficial manifestations of our personalities. So called as, I'm so and so, I have this position, I have this power, I am from this family, I have so and so, I have this much of wealth. But there is always an element so called as our own existence. That is called as self, that is called as the real I, the big I, or in Vedantic term we say it as the Surubam.
I always struggle with one thing, which is Advaita Vedanta. It says that the material world is unreal, Maya.
Yes. Unreal doesn't mean that you have to, when I say your money is fake, right? Or maybe, let me say, very, very hypothetical example. Assume that you have 10 lakh as your, wealth, okay? And that 10 lakh is with, or in the property, or in the bank, or is it is with somebody. You have hardly 100 rupees with you. At this point of time, if I am asking, get me the liquid money of the 10 lakh, will you be able to give that?
No.
This is very hypothetical, and let us not compare this with when I say the Jagan Mithya. Similarly, you appreciate the names, forms, the plans, whatever is it, right? Let us take our own example. The so-called person I am, and I have this much of height, I have this much of possessions, this much of, this kind of family I have, the place where I live, and whatever attributes you have, right? Right? And I am saying these all are a mithya. What is Satyam is you, the true consciousness is Satyam. It doesn't mean that you need to negate all those possessions, and you don't need to get rid of that. You need to understand that without this consciousness there is no meaning for those things. Similarly, any nama rupam to exist, including the universe that you live, the earth that you live, there is a fundamental consciousness behind the manifestation of this earth in this form, with these names, forms, with these birds, with these plants, with whatever attributes you see, or the place that you live, where the kind of plants, these kind of birds around you and all, right? All those objects you call, there is a subject behind the objects, and you are not really appreciating the subject, and you are just appreciating only the objects. When you are appreciating only the objects, at that context we say that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Jagat is Mithya, Jagat is non-real. It doesn't mean that you need to get rid of this Jagat, you need to run away from that. You are not denying that. You are saying that these are not having an independent existence without this reality behind it. This is the simple ask of the Vedanta. Vedanta is not asking you to, negate, make it zero, and see. Otherwise, also when you say, practically think, you have a bank deposit of 5 lakh, and I am saying that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. These all are not making any sense, and give your money to me. So you, as an experiencer of that wealth, you need to exist first. You are the truth, and your possessions are not the truth. This is the way that you have to understand. Clear?
Okay. So that means Kashmiri Shaivism is not very different from Advaita Vedanta.
See, Advaita is the mother of everything. Everything, any religion you can call, there is no. The schools are different. Sometimes the schools of thoughts are different, but fundamentally, the reality of all religions are same. Though they call maybe in Hinduism itself, or in the Vedanta also, we call different Dvaidam or Advaidam, or Vishishta Advaita and all.
I heard that in Kashmiri Shaivism is same as Advaita Vedanta. The only difference is, while Advaita Vedanta says that you gain consciousness only when the Brahman manifests in material things. But in Kashmiri Shaivism, the Brahman itself is conscious.
Yeah, he for you to realize that. See, now let us think. Fundamentally, it is same. If you have to realize the truth within you, tell me, do you need a body, mind, etc.? Because you have taken a birth, and if you really want to realize your true potential, you still need a body, you still need a mind. Our mind is having ajnanam, but where the jnanam comes in that mind. How are you realizing? In this birth you are realizing that, right? You need these upadhis still, right? So the Brahman has manifested in the form of a body, right? Assume that this is the body that Brahman has manifested in the form of this body, and this body has got mind, so called as the Jiva Atma, and that Jivan has to get the freedom, the Jivan has to get the liberation. How? The ajnanam in the mind has to go. So once that ajnanam goes away, then there is no difference. At some point of time, then the prarabdham gets over, the body will go to the nature, and you are merging with that consciousness. Correct? So you need to have the upadhi again. Maybe the way they define or discuss, it's ultimately same, because you need to have a body to realize that again. Correct? Because the jiva has to get freed, so the jiva atma has to have certain upadhi like body, mind. This build has to be there. Clear? Right. So the I, the small I, the ego is the pointer, and please understand carefully. The small I or this ego is the pointer for all of us. For what? To know the true basis of our personality. So the life is all about moving from small I to the capital I. And first and foremost thing is understanding this. Am I a mere body, mind, intellect, etc.? Am I this ego? Or what is this ego? Is there any separate existence for the ego? This understanding itself is needed, right? And then what am I? Who am I? What is that which is beyond this? So the second role one has to play is basically recognize that, yeah, I am not this mere body, mind, intellect, sense, ego complex. And one has to start thinking, discriminating, or doing the analysis. Correct? There is a vast reality behind this mere body, mind, intellect, senses. There is a background for our lives. This is the second part, so called as recognition. And again, please understand that the objects which are there that we use in our transaction, that includes our body, mind, intellect, sense, capabilities, skills, etc. These all are not shashwadam, these all are not permanent. What is permanent is only that consciousness. So that is where one has to have this discrimination. What is permanent in life, what is not permanent in life. And the sad part is the majority of the people will never have a clue that there is a reality, there is a universal truth. Most of the people won't even be able to introspect this. In the Kadopanishad, there is a verse, Sravanayapi bahuvur yona labhya, srunnantopi bahavo yam na vidyuhu, ascharyo vakta, kushalo se labda, ascharyo jnada, kushala anusishta. So when we say there is a truth behind everything, correct? Most of people won't understand. What are you talking about? When I say this, for example, the Google car, driverless car versus a car where you drive, you yourself as a driver, you driving versus a driverless car driving. You may say that most of people will say, "Kya farak hai? There is no difference. Everything is fine." Ultimately you need to reach your destination. Driverless car is having less error and all those things. But where is the first person experience coming? Most of the people won't be able to comprehend. When we say comprehend, understand the reality behind our existence. This so called as the subject behind every object. Correct. So now our Vedantam says that, hey, don't worry, you are that spark of spirit. You are that divine power. The truth is there within you. The only problem is it is now illusioned by the material energy or the world energy or the world. It is now superimposed. It is now mixed. It is now cluttered with your material realm objects. Again in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says in the 7th chapter, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yadadi siddhaye siddhanam yadadam abhi siddhanam kaschinmam veti tattvataha. So among the innumerable number of human beings that are there, including all of us, only few will develop a desire for such an inquiry. And they will also strive. Only few will show an interest. And again, it is not showing an interest out of hobby or passion or something. There is nothing like passion or hobby here in this context. It is all about the blessings coming from that God, so called as the Krupa. Because that Jiva has to undergo transformation and realize the true potential. For that blessing should come from that divine truth itself. And that truth is within us. But now the problem is the truth is covered by multiple things, right? So the mind has to, consciously seek the blessings from that truth. What is that blessing? For the, purification of the mind. And again, what happens when you purify? Purification, Andakarana Shuddhi will ultimately enable us to the Jnana Arjanam. What is the Jnana Arjanam? That truth. You are that truth. You be with that truth. Realization is the ultimate aim. For that, the blessing has to come. That is why only few will go to that level. And again, quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam, Srishtva Purani Vidhani Jaya Atma Shaktya Vrikshan Sarisrupa Pashun Khagadam Shamalsyan Taistaira Dushta Hridaya Purusham Vidhaya Brahma Valogadishanam Mudamapadeva. Right? Among the different kingdoms, so called as animal, plant, and human, all those, only human beings are capable to go to the profound dimensions of their existence, own existence, correct? And again the slogam says that labdva sudurlabhamidam bahu sambhavande manushyam ardhadam anityam abhihadira turnam yadeda na padedanu mrityu yavah nisreyasaya vishaya khalu sarvadasya. So only few will be able to go to the next level. What is the next level? It is not something like, when you say in the layman's term, people say moksha, mrityu, liberation, and all. This is not something that happens after death. Realization has to happen when you are alive. That is real beauty. And again, once you get realized, there is no need to, take a birth also, because that is at a different plane. But with this manifested body, one of you also rightly mentioned that for realizing the Brahman, you need a manifestation. In this manifestation, with these capabilities, with these characteristics, with the blessings of that divine, one should potentially understand the divinity and be with that divine and do the transactions in the world, if something is prescribed in that way, right? So our goal is to go forward until the ego discovers the true self. I, small I to capital I. So Suruva Sakshatkaram or Atma Sakshatkaram or Ishvara Sakshatkaram or Brahma Sakshatkaram, right? Or maybe again I get a strong grounding here from Srimad Bhagavatam. These terms and terminologies are called in different terms, different ways, right? Brahmedi, Paramatmedi, Bhagavan idi Shabdyate, right? All these so-called terms as Brahman, Atman, soul, etc. Ultimately, it is called as Brahman, Atma, Paramatma, and you are that. We all are that, and we all are rooted in that truth. Please understand that. And we don't know this. That is a problem. We don't ordinarily know this.
So the lokas that are talked about, like Satyalok and all the Swarglok and Patalok and Bhulok, etc. So are these basically the states of the mind? Like the closer you are to moksha, I mean, if you attain moksha, you are in Satyalok. And if your default state of mind is like you are in Bhulok. And if you are a really morally depraved person, then you're probably in Patalok or one of those lower loks.
Yeah, I will ask a counter question to you. You are also a techie, right? You also understand technology. See, if I say that there is a log outside this, right? And I am saying that 1,000 kilometers away from Bangalore there is another log. So will you believe if I tell all those?
No, I certainly won't.
Similarly, maybe I'll bring a classic example here. You all know, most of the Malayalis know the story of Mahabali and Onam, right? So there is Maybe I don't know the stories that are propagated in Kerala. The Mahabali was pushed to Padalam, etc. But in fact, there is no mention in Srimad Bhagavata that Mahabali was pushed to Padala and all. In Srimad Bhagavata, there is a mention that Mahabali is, raised to Sutala. Right? He says that he is uplifted to Sutalam. Right? Sutalam is basically Sutalam, the better plane, the better state of a mind. Right? And the story is like this. Vamana comes, Vamana, Vishnu, in the form of a small Brahmin, Vamana comes and asks for 3 feet of land from Mahabali. Correct. And Mahabali, again, if you see the lineage of Mahabali, Prahlada's grandson, right? Very humble, loyal, but as a ruler, he did the good job, in fact. And the story is like Vishnu want to, test, correct, and ask for the 3 feet of land. And again, please understand that in this story, this can be just a revelation that is happening in an individual, right? For example, when we feel that I am a great person, and this at that time anybody can have a revelation in life and do an introspection. Who am I? From where I got this? What is the basis of my wealth? I mean, what is that which really helped me? Correct. So probably this is also a nimittam that Vamana coming and asking for 3 feet, and the first feet is basically measured, and second feet, with that the complete world is covered. Technically, do you feel that this can happen? Maybe this is something like if you go to the implied meaning, the first feet is all about the possessions that you gathered or gained from or you inherited. Right? And the second feat is basically the possessions that you created in your capacity. Right? You surrendered all the possessions that you gathered or inherited. You surrendered all the possessions that you created in your capacity. You, the I. The third is basically you are surrendering the possessor too. The third feat is basically surrendering yourself to that God. At that time, Vishnu says, Rakshishye sarvadoham tvam swanugam sabarichadam sada sannihidam mera tatramam rikshade bhavan. So, hey Veera, I understand that, you are a real, devotee. You identified your, play of ego, and now you have surrendered. Let me uplift you to the Sudalam, and I will ensure that I will take care of you for everything, be it your stress, prayers, everything. Right? I will be there with you. Hey Veera, I am going to be there. Rakshishye sarvadoham tvam sanugam sabarichidam. I am going to protect you for everything. Sada sannihidam Veera. This is a big assurance. I will ensure that you are in the best company of myself. Meaning what? Your mind will be closer to me and you will realize me. Meaning I am with you. There is not even a time that you will miss me. So for that I am uplifting you. Sutalam. That is what the real Bhagavata story is. But the Onam story, if you hear from Malayalis, they say different things, and this is not. The stories that you hear is different. But what I am trying to say is basically the Padalam, all those logams you are saying, right? These all are the different states of mind. These are the different what is the right word? The different phases of transition that can happen, so that the drifting from the small I to the capital I happens, and that is a different stage. That is where the purity of mind comes into play. So at some point of time, maybe the lower mind and the play of ego will not matter much, right? You will become mature. So that is how the human evolution is all about. Correct. I think we have not started the Atma Bodha. So ultimately, Atma Bodha is a text that will help us correct, to remove the ignorance, the avidya, where we tend to forget our true nature, right? Because we are entangled in the relative world with the dualities around, the good, evil, play, pain, pleasure, life, death, right? All the opposites are there, right? So now let me touch base on the first 11 slokas. I'll take another 15 minutes. Let me quickly go through that because we had a long break of 3 weeks. So that's where I want everybody to be on the same page. Today the attendance is very low, but still let us, for the sake of today's discussion, let me try to cover the previous 11 slokas in another 2-3 minutes or maximum 5 minutes. So the first verse basically says that the preparation that is needed. Preparation is needed at where? The mind, right? The mind which is fit for absorbing this knowledge. So one has to equip the mind to get accustomed or for absorbing this knowledge, right? What is that is needed? That is where we need the 4 Ds, so called as the discrimination, dispassion, desire and discipline, right? The sadhana chatushtaya sampat, so called as vivegam, vairagyam, shadga sampatti and the mumukshutva. So vivegam is all about discrimination between what is real, what is not real, what is permanent, what is not permanent. Vairagyam is all about attaching to the permanent and detaching from the impermanent. Attaching to the permanent and transacting with the impermanent is also vairagya. Next is the shadga sampatti, so called as the discipline. Discipline comprises of shamam, damam, uparamam, tidiksha, shraddha, samadhana. I'm not going into depth of those. And the last one is the mumukshutva. Mumukshutva is all about the intense desire in one. Alright, intense desire to gain this knowledge, intense desire to know the true purpose of life, intense desire to have freedom in life, complete freedom in life. When I say freedom, not getting affected by the worldly things, though you do the worldly things. Correct. That is what the first one is, basically the equipping, how one should equip the mind to absorb the knowledge. And then we saw the verse, next verses, like knowledge of the self is the only means to the liberation. And then we saw that knowledge is already there in us. What one has to do is a rediscovery or a recognition. Correct. So for that one should have the chitta shuddhi, the purity of the mind, and also the Ishvara Krupa. Correct. Then we saw in the 4th verse that now the self appears to be finite due to the stereotyping that we created, due to the ignorance in the mind. Correct. And what is this ignorance? Ignorance is all about the sheer importance one gives to the nama rupa, only to the objects, that whatever you see you appreciate them, and you ignore the underlying reality or the truth behind it. This is the ignorance. Correct. So due to this, the self is appearing as very finite, or you superimpose that self as a ego, and you are thinking that this is a limited, I am a limited being. Right. Then the verse 5 says that one has to have a constant practice, right? Jnana abhyasad vinirmalam. So one has to do the abhyasam. Jnana should be, we should do the jnana abhyasam, constant practice, to overcome the sense of limitations, or one has to do the regular abhyasam, sadhanas. Then we saw that the world of attachment is all about the world of samsaram is all about the attachment, aversions, dualities, etc. Right? And the world of samsaram is like a dream. And the moment you wake up, come out of the dream, right, you will understand that the world is also unreal. When sometime back we discussed that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, right? When you understand the underlying principle behind the world, all the Namarupam, there is no independent existence, then you will be able to come out of the problems of the world or the samsara. Then the next verse mentioned that Tavat Satyam Jagadbhadi Shuktiga Rajadam Yada Yavan Nyayade Brahma Sarvadishtanam Advayam. Right. So reality is now hidden or shrouded. Due to what? Due to the mistaken perception. Because we have wrongly identified ourselves with something else. That is why the reality is covered. Correct. So now then again the next verse are that the how the the bubbles in the ocean, bubbles in the water. Correct. What happens if you see the waves? Waves are a part of the ocean, the water. Correct. The waves are just forming in that, and waves stay for some time, and waves will go back into the water. So similarly, in this Supreme Self, everything arises and goes back. And this Supreme Self is the material and the intelligent cause of everything. That's what it is described. Then comes the next verse. Satchidatma anya anusuyade nitye Vishnu pragalpida vyaktayo vivida sarva hadage kadagadivat. So like how all those things are just